by the morning on Sunday. Quite blustery though up towards the north, gales are likely, and wherever you are it's mild and frost-free, temperatures holding up in double figures in some places. As for Sunday itself, we'll get off to a very showery picture across Scotland. A few clear spells at times, but on the whole there will be a fair number of showers moving in from the west. Quite mild at this stage in the day though, temperatures here in double figures. A pretty bright picture across Northern Ireland to start the day on Sunday, just 1 or 2 showers around, and fairly bright too across parts of Wales and the southwest, again with just 1 or 2 showers moving in from the west. Cloudier skies though across central and southeastern parts of England, here some more general outbreaks of rain at times. As for the rest of Sunday, well, on the whole it's a pretty unsettled day. Bands of showery rain moving in from the west, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells at times, and those blustery winds, particularly towards the north, gradually easing down as we go through the day. And another very mild day for the time of year. Temperatures peaking at 14, possibly 15 degrees down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. But as I say, tempered a little bit by the showery outbreaks of rain and that brisk breeze. As for Monday, we'll notice colder air starting to push in from the north, certainly across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. Towards the south we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, and locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A pensioner has been sacked as one of Santa's helpers for sending anti-Labour social media posts. So it looks like Santa is going to have even more work to do this Christmas. And joining me now is the former Santa helper, Paul Cleary. Paul, marvellous. You've still got your old hat on there and your beard. Wonderful to see. But Paul, this story, pardon the pun, is absolutely crackers. Tell us what happened to you.
It's unbelievable, to tell you the truth. I've been accused of sending racist and or derogatory remarks on my Facebook page about the Labour government. I received a letter from the trust where I volunteered as Santa. The posts in question about Labour cancelling Christmas. I've upset the board, members and volunteers, and are deemed inappropriate. As you're aware, a lot of time and effort is put into organising the WAF Christmas Festival, which is done by a small group of dedicated volunteers.
They even banned you from making donations to the Montgomery Hall Food Bank, a local food bank. They said they didn't even want your food.
That's right. That's right. And then in the next breath, they're asking for Christmas donations.
Without going into any details, I understand that the post was about comparing Keir Starmer to an elf, is that right? So was it an elf and safety issue?
It was an elf with Keir Starmer's face on it in front of number 10, but the 10 was the I and O in idiot.
Right. I mean, you know, it's not the kind of thing that Santa would normally say, but it's a free country, and for Santa got the sack.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out if we have finally solved the problem of cows breaking wind, the meetings where people have to talk about their feelings. I don't even do that in my marriage. And the latest claims of what was said in the MasterChef scandal. I'm Stephen Allen, and tonight we have Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon taking you through tomorrow's stories. This is Headliners. But before Sunday's news, let's get tonight's headlines with Joe Casper.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Joe Casper. Here are your top stories from the GB Newsroom. Some breaking news this evening, and Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce he'll reform the public sector and over Whitehall when he makes a major speech marking the next phase of government, Downing Street says. The Prime Minister will kick off the week with what he calls the next phase of government as he announces the markers for his missions that Number 10 says will allow the public to hold Sir Keir and his team to account on their manifesto promises. It has been suggested these moves will influence decisions for next year's spending review. Writing in The Sun on Sunday, the Prime Minister compared focusing the machinery of government to turning an oil tanker and said that acceptance of managed decline has seeped into parts of Whitehall. Also this evening, the Sunday Times is reporting a BBC executive warned Greg Wallace about his alleged behaviour in 2017, saying it was unacceptable and cannot continue. Meanwhile, the Sunday Telegraph quotes a former producer saying she raised concerns about the MasterChef presenter but was dismissed. And The Observer says a letter sent by a number of women to the BBC in 2022 reported multiple allegations of inappropriate behaviour by the host but did not prompt further investigation. It comes after the MasterChef producer, Banijay UK, announced city law firm Lewis Silkin will investigate alleged misconduct by Mr Wallace. The BBC said, if issues are raised with us, we have robust processes in place to deal with them swiftly and appropriately. Mr Wallace's lawyers insist the claims are entirely false, saying the suggestion that Wallace, who presented the popular BBC One cooking show alongside John Torode since 2005, engages in behaviour of a sexually harassing nature was entirely false. Football action now, and there were wins for Brentford, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth in the Premier League today. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace scored a last-minute equaliser to draw 1-1 at home to Newcastle. In the evening kick-off, Arsenal thumped West Ham 5-2. And England ladies ended USA's 9-game winning streak with a goalless draw in a friendly at Wembley. Now to a story that will sweeten your day. A man has been awarded £2 in compensation after he complained about a smooth Mars bar. Harry Seeger from Buckinghamshire picked up the chocolate treat at a service station in Oxfordshire, but contacted manufacturers Mars Wrigley when he discovered it didn't have its signature ripple. In a letter, the firm apologised for his experience and enclosed a £2 voucher, but offered no explanation. Mr Seeger said, I think £2 is great. It will be 2 free Mars bars. Maybe they could have sent me more, but I'm not being ungrateful. Story of the day. Those are the latest GB News headlines. That's me done for the day. A very good evening to you. Now, for more on that Mars bar in Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's top stories with 3 comedians. Before we roll up our sleeves like a keen vet and get stuck into the papers, let's have a quick taste of what Leo and Nick will have to work with on these Sunday front pages. The Mail on Sunday, Winter Fuel Minister's heating bill is paid by you. The Sunday Telegraph goes with, I blew the whistle on Wallace, but nothing was done. Sunday Mirror, Family's agony as number of missing people soars. The Observer goes with PM to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. The Sunday Express, MOD orders £37 million of kit from China. And I've been on those websites. Daily Star Sunday, cursed picture is at it again. Ooh, plenty of news for us to get into there. But, Leo, let's start with the Sunday Telegraph.
So the Sunday Telegraph, they've got the headline, I blew the whistle on Wallace, but nothing was done. I've got to be honest, if I saw a whistle attached to Greg Wallace, I would probably not blow it. But we're going to cover that in more depth in a moment. The other story they've got there is somebody waving what appears to be the ISIS flag, or apologies if I've got that wrong, and it's just a different kind of Islamic jihad flag, over the city of Aleppo in Syria. So the civil war there that's been sort of frozen for best part of a decade, has flared up again. And the reason this is important to us, I mean, apart from the fact that this is possibly the end of Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Syria, it's important to us because last time it triggered a refugee crisis and sent. We can see some of the fighters there; those are the rebels. They've even got a ginger. There's always a ginger one in any bunch of Islamists.
It's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
That's what it is, or possibly their predilection for virgins. But the last time there was a civil war in Syria, it sent millions and millions of refugees up towards Europe. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, Europe has become much more sort of refugee resistant. It's not like 2015 when Angela Merkel was like, we can take everybody in. Now Germany and other European countries are saying, no, we can't take it. Apart from Britain. Britain is the one European country that's like, oh no, we still have completely open borders, and if you can get here, we'll put you up in a really nice travel lodge. And if the hotel's not nice enough, honestly, your lawyer, your human rights lawyer, will get you upgraded to a 4-star.
And you'll get benefits if you watch enough YouTube videos on how to game the system.
But no, just for a bit of fairness, I mean, Starmer just last week was saying that he was effectively joining Reform, wasn't he? He's pivoted so fully on this issue of immigration that he could be, I mean, that would be a high-profile crossing the floor.
No, I mentioned it last night. He's beyond Reform. He's where all so-called far-right conspiracy theorists were 10 seconds ago. He says it was deliberately done to destroy the country. It was by design. Those are his words, by design. Yeah. So Starmer's now a far-right online conspiracy theorist, and I think perhaps he should go to jail. I mean, isn't that what happens to those people?
He's trying to get a show here.
This is the sort of stuff that people were going to jail for about 3 months ago, and now Starmer is saying it. It's weird. It's like you're saying earlier. It's like being gaslit. It's like we're being told. Right. Starmer's like, oh no, I was always massively anti-immigration and promoted replacement theory. It's insane.
Yeah. And Nick, I mean, this feels a bit retro, doesn't it? Talking about Syria again. I'd forgotten about all of these places.
Now, you didn't get the note, Steve. Just never ask me about Syria. I've no idea. I was like, I'm on with Leo. He will cover all the Syria stuff. I don't even understand the memes. I've been trying to catch up with it today. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Did you think it was Serie A, the Italian football league?
And if it was, I would smash you two on that because you know nothing about football. I feel like you must feel when football comes up, when Syria comes up, and just generally anything to do with military conflict, I think just pass to Leo. He should be standing in a flak jacket out in some desert somewhere going, yeah, I'm here, and then bombs are flying over.
Scenes of devastation.
It's got real sort of fall of Afghanistan vibes. Was it 2022 or 2020 when Biden just let Afghanistan go and nobody put up a fight? We've seen the Syrian army just being routed by these rebels, which quite often are just a few guys in a pickup truck. So
Russia were doing a lot, and now they're a bit busy, I suppose.
That's the thing. Russia and Iran were both propping up Assad and providing military support, and now a lot of that military support is needed in other places. Iran's tied up with this sort of conflict with Israel and Hezbollah and Hamas getting eviscerated, and obviously Russia is tied up in Ukraine.
Yeah. Anything else on the front page? I see this. Starmer gets another mention.
Yeah, Starmer accused of bringing Khan to heel as Labour rift worsens. So this is actually about the threat of Sadiq Khan and Richard, what's his name, to Starmer. Andy Burnham. I always get confused with Richard, the other one. You know what I mean? Richard Thingy, Bergen, is it? And Andy Burnham. They seem exactly like the same person. Anyway, somehow they're a threat to Starmer because Starmer's approval rating is catastrophic. So he's worried about Sadiq Khan. And he's thinking about bringing in things where they have to get sign-off from the party leadership to run again for election and things like that, which would be good because Sadiq Khan is like a 16th century Russian Tsar. The guy's just in forever. Yeah. He just seems to be there forever. You can't get rid of him. So I think I'm OK with that, to be honest with you. And there's also one about the Chagos Islands, where apparently Russia's been meddling with it, sort of drumming up support for Mauritius just to mess with the deal. I think the Chagos thing is so funny because Trump is having to tell us not to give away our own territory. He might have to step in to stop us being absolute idiots. Well, I think it will get quashed by Trump's influence.
Yeah, and it's like Trump stepped in to say, oh no, Europe and the UK, please maintain Western liberal values of freedom of speech. He's had to step in to stop us being communists and to stop us giving away our own territory.
All right, let's take a look at the Sunday Times, Nick. What have they got?
Yeah, so the Times has dying bill piles pressure on courts and NHS. So it's once again the assisted dying bill we've talked so much about. But there's a new aspect to it here, which is that it will eclipse the government's priorities and heap pressure on the already broken NHS and justice system. So we can't even kill people because we're so inefficient. It's basically what's happened. The country's just broken, so we can't manage to kill people. I'm completely against assisted dying. I'm being satirical when I say kill people.
No, I was going to agree with you.
I thought you were going to make a note.
Of course I'm going to make a joke.
No, I thought you were going to make like a note that it's not actually killing people or something like that.
Oh, no, I was going to say the idea that these people have to be with only 6 months left to live. There is no way that a waiting list with the NHS can reach anywhere near 6 months. They're all going to die naturally.
Yes, dark but good point. I mean, that's where we are. And unless you want to say anything on that, Leo, I've got the other story as well about Musk, which is, will Musk fling Farage $100 million? It's like Dr. Evil. and there's people close to Musk saying, well, he might. He's got this money. Farage says he has a good relationship with him, so he might, sort of through the British branch of X, I heard something like that, that he would actually give it to Farage. And I'm even questioning that because I don't know if Reform are quite the same as Trump and MAGA. I don't know if they deserve it at the moment. I think they've gone too safe and too establishment. That's just my controversial view. So I don't know if they deserve the 100.
I think it would be a better idea for Musk to spread it around GBNews presenters.
Yeah, good idea. Buy the place.
Yeah.
But he might. It's the kind of thing Musk would do. I mean, the other day he was telling everyone to watch the Tommy Robinson film. So Musk is pretty out there. He doesn't realise that in British politics you're not allowed to say things like that, because he's just doing what he wants.
But it's strange. If you look at people like Tommy Robinson or Katie Hopkins, who have a certain reputation in the UK, in America they don't see that. They don't have any prejudice towards them at all. They just take them on what they say.
Yeah. Are we going to do the Greg Wallace thing? So, he seems to be in hot water for 15 minutes until he simmers down.
Yeah, so apparently emails show the BBC was warned about Greg Wallace in 2017 and allegedly, didn't act on the warnings. But, I mean, how was the BBC to... I mean, this is surely the first time this has happened in the BBC's history. So, I don't know. And also, I've got to say, a lot of the allegations that have come up aren't quite the level of Jimmy Savile, you know what I mean? So he's been accused of making kung fu fighting noises and comments such as "me so horny." I mean, that's really not the worst thing a BBC presenter has done this week. Never mind, in the history.
You've stolen my angle on this. I mean, Savile would be turning in his grave if he saw the BBC degeneracy has just gone. It's gone so downhill since the heyday of Savile.
It's a double standard as well. I think
he denies all these allegations. Can we just say that?
Oh, yeah. I was going to finish.
Oh, good.
And also, if they're true, they just make him sound like a fun guy.
But I feel there's a weird comparison with Nigella Lawson as well, whose entire TV career is being the most sexualised. I'm just going to rub oil on my juicy dumplings. That's the thing that you could also get fired for, and somehow it's her show.
I think it depends how attractive you are.
Do you know what? They might be onto something. And for that, we should say legally that Greg's lawyers deny all of this. All right, I think we're safe to move on now to The Observer.
So The Observer have the Prime Minister to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. So Starmer is acting to stem falling poll ratings. So he's having a sort of mid-term refresh about 2 months in. It's ridiculous, but I mean, it's amazing how he's changed. The thing is with Starmer, he was so open border, so pro multiculturalism, and thought it was the best thing ever. And now he's suddenly changed, and he really does sound, like we were saying earlier, he sounds like a reform candidate. He sounds like he's crossed the floor to reform.
Which he literally did the other day to talk to Farage. Did you see that?
Right.
He walked across the Commons to have a little cosy chat with Farage.
Yeah.
Internet went mental.
Right, yeah, but he didn't actually join. Maybe next time he walks across. But, I mean, for a politician to change, it shows that he's not a conviction politician. I think Starmer just wants to be in power. He wants to be successful. And unfortunately for him, he's not being very successful at the moment. For all that people say he's got a huge mandate, he's also hugely unpopular. At this stage, without any, massive external pressure, there's been no sort of financial crash or anything like that. It's all of his own making. Everything that he's done is just terrible optics, going after the farmers, cutting off the fuel allowance, even things that kind of make sense, like the fuel allowance, making that means tested, kind of makes sense. It's just presented in a terrible way and looks awful.
Yeah, Nick, do you expect to see him behind a podium with 3 words on it that just say Control, Alt, Delete?
Do you know what? He might, but he might also... He almost said take back control the other day. Did you see it? There was a headline. It was almost exactly those words. So Starmer's gone full Brexit, but it is fascinating. We're going to do later, I think, how his approval rating is catastrophic, but imagine having a reset and ambitious new targets just after your own budget. Yeah. I mean, that's when you do that. But the budget's gone so badly, it's like, we need another budget. It'll probably even choose a new budget, the December budget, because it's almost like Liz Truss level. If the deep state were more against this lot, they'd be gone already, right? Yeah. Because she had a catastrophic budget. Labour did, but they get to do a reset. But it is amazing. He is in trouble. And, you know, things like that petition, everyone mocks the petition, but it can't help to find out that millions of people hate you in the country. I mean, I don't get that. I just get one or two nutters on Twitter. But imagine just like going, oh, look, 2.6 million people want me to go, or whatever it is.
But you could get like 3 times that saying that Boaty McBoatface should be renamed Boaty McBoatface again. You know, the
I've always said that.
Yeah, well, of course, and that's the real issue here, isn't it? So, yeah, numbers. So, you know, we'll move on to the Daily Mail next. Nick, what are they going with?
So they've got winter fuel minister's heating bill is paid by you. Now, this is Liz Kendall, who axed £300 payment to pensioners, lives in £4 million Notting Hill home with her banker partner. Oh, it's even worse, a banker partner with all his bonuses. And so, obviously, this is a problem. If you are going to take away money from cold, old people in the winter, and you happen to live in a £4 million Notting Hill home, it's sitting right there, isn't it? It's just an open goal for the Mail, and they've slotted it away, to be honest.
You're talking football, I've no idea.
It's football, it's not Syria.
Tell me again if it was Aleppo. They've done what to it?
Yes, they've bombed someone really well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is just optics again. That's going to be the theme, isn't it? Just pay your own darn bills and then this stuff goes away.
And also, like, as soon as somebody dies, because, you know, somebody's going to die, then that's going to be the headline and Labour are just going to look awful.
Yeah, they've managed to own a winter death, which they would be anyway. So, well done. So we've got time for this story. We'll fit this one in the Daily Star Sunday, Leo, the big news here.
So the Daily Star has paranormal shenanigans shake up tourist hotspot. This is a spine-tingling portrait that spooked all of its owners, is still scaring the bejesus out of people. This is a haunted picture of a girl, which is now causing a ghoulish chaos at a tourist attraction. I've got no idea what this is. The front page isn't clear at all. They don't have a picture of oh, they do actually have a picture.
Yeah,
there it is, the little postage stamp size thing. They could have that as the main picture. I've got no...
Why are we even doing this? There's so much serious news to get through. It's like one of these magazines that used to be near the till. You're like, what is... You know, there would be aliens. Yeah, exactly. It's always someone saw aliens. Why are we covering this?
Because some of these papers, like the Sunday Sport, is genuinely funny. It's sort of taken over the mantle from Viz as being the sort of irreverent touchstone for British comedy. But the Star, all they seem to do is call Donald Trump orange, like we're Nish Kumar in 2015.
And say boffins and seagulls a lot. Yeah.
And I can't believe they've gone with this story when there's the Mars bar story, right? Big news.
It's sitting right there.
Losing their mind
Classic.
about. A Mars bar that somehow doesn't quite look like a Klingon. They've gone with it. But anyway...
Too edgy for the staff.
Right then.
There had no edges on it.
The front page is sorted. Still to come, what's up Donald Trump's his latest lame claim to fame, why some people are avoiding Tesco and Aldi, and how the internet is making people ill, and they're happy about it. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
What do you think?
Morning. I think we have failed young drivers as a society, and we need to train them better and train them earlier. I think that the idea of stopping them carrying passengers for 6 months is a good idea because you've got peer pressure within a car. So yes, but I think graduated licenses are really difficult. You've got what we call the 3 E's, which is education, educating kids to drive earlier, and engineering, which is making roads better and safer, and then comes enforcement at the end of it. So I think we're failing in these two first ones, the education and the enforcement. I put my kids, all 3 of them, through a thing called Young Driver, which allows under 17s to drive on private land with ADI instructors and learn the craft of driving and all the below the dashboard stuff and hazard awareness long before they try and do this very compressed period of time to learn about driving. I think we're failing them. So I want to see it in schools, and I want to see them being taught much, much earlier.
Nobody's actually pointing the finger of blame, I think, at the young driver. But maybe young drivers don't understand how different it is. You feel you can drive, you've passed your test, and then a load of your friends get in the back, and suddenly the mood is different, the pressure on you as a driver is very different, showing off, just larking around and having a great time. Aisha, how do you feel about the fact that clearly young drivers do need to be protected almost from themselves, don't they?
Well, I do agree with some of what Quentin has just said, especially about starting early and especially about getting young people used to the dangers of being on the road.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen here with Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. You can get involved as well. Get your comments to us, gbnews.com/yours say. Kathy gives us a couple of comments. She says, super strong Headliners team tonight, and then she goes on to compliment other people, so we'll leave that one there. Running out of time for a Headliners calendar, guys. It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
Because these days they probably want you to do some sort of nakedy one.
Yeah, we're getting told for sexism or something.
Yeah, it's like entrapment. It's like they make you do a calendar, then all of a sudden you're getting accused like Greg Wallace was.
And my upper body strength is too impressive, and it would shame you guys, and you'd hate me.
And for legal reasons, his lawyers don't have anything to do with calendars. I don't know what. I just want to make sure I've not said anything there. Leo, the Sunday Express, and it's nice that politically there's somewhere for the rats to head to after that sinking ship.
So a huge boost for Nigel Farage's 2 more Tories defect to Reform UK. Before you get excited, though, these are councillors, not MPs, and they're in Scotland, which is
even worse.
It's a real country. It's a great country. But yeah, this is Reform UK announced that 2 North Ayrshire councillors, Matthew McLean for Irvine South and Stuart Ferguson for Ardrossan, have officially joined the party. And also Keir Starmer sounds like he's joined the party, which is good. I mean, for all that people, Reform have come in for a lot of criticism this week. I've seen it from Conor Tomlinson and from other people saying, oh, they're too wet, they're too, this, they're too that. And it's like, how do you think Keir Starmer is saying this stuff? How do you think Keir Starmer has moved so far across that he sounds like a Reform politician? Because Reform pushed him there. So the impact that Reform have had, can't be underestimated, even if they are now slightly wet. But yeah, this is interesting. There's Cameron Inglis, who's the Scottish Tory leader, said Reform are more right-wing and a party who don't have policy in Scotland but are an English national party and they don't represent Scottish values. I think as a Scottish person, they do represent Scottish values. Certainly the Scottish values of the old days.
Well, I've got to disagree with Leo. I'm on that other side where I think Reform have got too wet recently, although you did add that at the very end. But they've done everything they can to dissociate themselves from the right. This is not a surprise to me that they want Tories, because that's what they want to do. They want to be the new Tories. They want to alienate anyone on the right. They seem to have got their views on Islam from Michelle Welbeck's novel Submission. They talk about 60% of them voted for assisted dying because 3 of their 5 MPs, obviously not many if it's 3, but that is 60%. So it's like, you can say it's a personal moral choice, but that's a fundamental change to our culture, and it's a liberal change. So I don't have a problem with Reform, and Nigel Farage is our esteemed colleague with a great show, but my point is simply they're a liberal party. Peter Hitchens has said it for a long time. I've said it. They're liberal on economics and they're socially liberal. It doesn't mean I'm mad. It just means that's what they are, and they're not a right-wing or conservative party.
It's good to be liberal on economics, and it's good to be socially liberal.
Well, it's good to be liberal on economics, I might give you, but I think they're too socially liberal for me, and they're not. They're just not. There's no conservative. There's no truly right-wing or conservative small C option in this country in the mainstream parties. If Reform are going to go this way, that's my concern. And if it's just full of ex-Tories, You see, that's what some people are worried about.
Yeah, but I think also you've got to be sort of realistic to get elected. And I think a lot of people on the right are almost like woke people. They're purist, and they've entered this purity spiral where nothing's ever good enough.
Yeah,
Well,
I disagree.
Like Corbyn's, we won the argument, but not the election.
Yeah,
Do you want to be in that situation?
Yeah, I disagree because I'm very pragmatic with Trump. I'm like, absolutely vote for Trump. Trump and Kamala was like a Big Mac versus a plate of bugs. You take the Big Mac, even if it's not nutritiously perfect, right? Reform, I don't think have done enough to warrant that. I don't think they've proved themselves to the degree that Trump has. I think, and they tend to alienate their potentially Conservative base far more than Trump does, because he'll include the Big Ten. He's like, oh, I've got Steve Bannon on my side, an imprisoned intellectual, but I've also got, you know, all kinds of people, Latino men and black men, and I'm doing a YMCA dance. It is a Big Ten. Reform seem desperate to alienate anyone on the right. It's OK to try and get some more liberal voters, but they lose those people completely. That's what's happening.
And I suppose the two new ones are definitely wet because they're in Scotland. And I don't remember what the weather's like. Nick, the Sunday Telegraph. Trump is more popular than Starmer, which is like saying more popular than catching your junk in a car door. Interesting.
Yeah, so Donald Trump more popular with British voters than Keir Starmer, and this comes from Freshwater, who normally sell prawns, but they're now they're some sort of think tanks. They're pollsters, Freshwater Strategy, and they say that Trump has minus 24 points in the UK, while the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has minus 30. Elon Musk has minus 17. Jeremy Clarkson has positive 15. People love Clarkson. He is the spiritual leader of the populist movement, even though he says he'd be a terrible leader, so he can't literally do it. But in leading the farmers, he's the kind of de facto Trump in our country, if you like. The King, our King, is on plus 27, so he's the absolute best, but closely followed by Clarkson, who could perhaps be some sort of prince or something, or duke. And then Starmer is absolutely tanking. And as Leo was sort of alluding to earlier, it's no surprise why. I mean, he's attacked virtually everyone, the entire working class, people concerned about children being killed, farmers. You know, he's giving away islands. The budget was grim. The migrant hotels remain. He's releasing hardened criminals while putting people in jail for posts. You know, I did a poll on my Twitter, informal poll. I said, which do you prefer, Keir Starmer or wasps? 97% wasps.
Really? Interesting.
But he's got that plucky 3%, so he can come back.
Wasps are quite useful for like eating insects, and you know they have a part to play in ecology, whereas Starmer not necessarily so.
Yeah, no, I've seen Starmer eat a dead badger, so I think he's a very important part of the ecosystem. But no, I think politicians are just generally becoming much less popular than they used to be. I don't know if it's because social media allows greater scrutiny and greater criticism, or if because of that scrutiny and criticism, we're just not attracting good candidates to politics anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Cummings always talks about that. There's just an absolute lack of talent in Labour and Tories, he always says, and we have to have some sort of total crisis to refresh the system.
Well, when you have surveys that say, like, they're all in negative numbers, even the most liked politician is negative, so you're effectively saying, here's a job where everyone will hate you. Do you want to come and do it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this job, except, well, no, I mean, we're loved, obviously, but, you know, I was thinking of Lewis, but, like, minus 30, though, that is bad. And this soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's an achievement. It's Norris McWhirter will turn up and write that down. It's impressive. Leo, the Mail on Sunday. Do you want a drug that stops cows breaking wind in our food chain? I think the bigger question is, can I get a powdered version for my other half's curry?
So shoppers are threatening to boycott Tesco, Morrison's and Aldi over Arla Foods' controversial Bill Gates-inspired food additive Bovaer. So this is a dairy firm, Arla, that's facing threats of a boycott over this controversial additive for cow feed that it says can reduce emissions related to cattle farming. Apparently cattle produce a lot of methane, and that contributes to 14% of our greenhouse gases. And this additive that they put in the feed reduces the amount of farming. But you're putting some sort of weird chemical in the feed. And also, it's linked to Bill Gates somehow, or people think that
it's
it's not linked to, but it sounds like it's linked to Bill Gates, and that's just as bad. And Bill Gates, you know, he's doing all this stuff for people's, like, he's giving you all these medicines and all this health advice, and it's like, Bill, you look terrible. You've got the worst body. I mean, you're fat and skinny at the same time. I'm amazed that you're still alive. You're only alive because you're rich. Any, like, normal wealth person with that body would be dead.
You spent a lot of time on a computer before everyone else did, so this is what's coming. We're all alive. that.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, yeah, Arla says they're nothing to do with it. It's all completely false, misinformation. It hasn't been approved for use, etc. But there is a perception, as Leo says on the internet, that the sort of powers that be want you to accept Bill Gates' synthetic meat, and people just don't want to put that in their mouth. What?
No, but there's a perception on the internet that the Earth's quite flat. Doesn't mean
that's
it's
true as well.
That's
true.
Look at it.
That is true,
Yeah,
and for balance, Leo also thinks it's true. It's so flat. It's more. It's not. It is. That's ridiculous. It's more of a sort of sphere. It's like a cone.
Is it?
Can we compromise? Meet you halfway.
It's a cardioid. Should we go for that? Kind of like a nice little thing at the bottom.
Yeah. People don't want synthetic meat, do they? Especially if it comes from Bill Gates.
Yeah, I just want to be able to trust. Just keep stuff natural. Cows should eat grass. If they fart, it doesn't really matter. Just let them eat the grass.
But the Elon Musk way of solving climate things, he's the tech guy, isn't he? And I think a lot of us have that opinion. If you grew up in the 80s, you had the idea that technology would solve all the problems. And this is technology finally coming up with, like, oh, we can solve. We've got a little thing for the cows. And then the internet just goes, wow, the Earth's flat. Why don't you want to solve the problems with technology?
Because the history of tinkering and adding industrial processes to food hasn't been... We're always told, like, oh, margarine, oh, it's this great leap forward, it's so much better for you. Actually, hydrogenated fats and stuff, it's not as good for you as butter. Look how healthy Nigella Lawson looks compared to, you know...
Greg Wallace.
Greg Wallace. People eat margarine. I'm trying to think of a famous margarine eater. I can't think of one.
For legal reasons, Greg Wallace's lawyers do not say that he eats margarine. This is the topic tonight. Still to come, crying in meetings, which I do in all of them, and find out what women are called now. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. During the course of Sunday, we'll see some showery outbreaks of rain across the UK. Things turning colder from the north into Monday, albeit for a time because milder Atlantic air will return during the middle part of the coming week. Back to detail for the present time though, and low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK. Quite tightly packed isobars, so it's quite a blustery picture. And a band of rain starting to work in from the west across Ireland and Northern Ireland through the course of the evening, reaching Scotland, England and Wales during the overnight period. Some of the rain could well turn quite heavy at times, staying mostly fine towards the southeast, and some clearer weather tucking into the northwest of the UK by the morning on Sunday. Quite blustery though up towards the north, gales are likely, and wherever you are it's mild and frost-free, temperatures holding up in double figures in some places. As for Sunday itself, we'll get off to a very showery picture across Scotland. A few clear spells at times, but on the whole, there will be a fair number of showers moving in from the west. Quite mild at this stage in the day though, temperatures here in double figures. A pretty bright picture across Northern Ireland to start the day on Sunday, just one or two showers around, and fairly bright too across parts of Wales and the southwest, again with just one or two showers moving in from the west. Cloudier skies though across central and southeastern parts of England, here some more general outbreaks of rain at times. As for the rest of Sunday, well, on the whole it's a pretty unsettled day. Bands of showery rain moving in from the west, interspersed by some bright or sunny spells at times, and those blustery winds, particularly towards the north, gradually easing down as we go through the day. And another very mild day for the time of year. Temperatures peaking at 14, possibly 15 degrees down towards the south. 15 is 59 in Fahrenheit. But as I say, tempered a little bit by the showery outbreaks of rain and that brisk breeze. As for Monday, we'll notice colder air starting to push in from the north, certainly across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the north of England. Towards the south, we hold on to milder temperatures, but here there'll be some outbreaks of rain at times, locally on the heavy side as we go through the day. Colder weather moving south across all parts to give some frost on Tuesday, even some snow for a time across the north of the UK, but turning milder by the middle of the week.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
welcome back to Headliners. I've got a quick message from gbnews.com/yoursay. You can get involved in this. Smelly says, who gave these young gammons a telly show? You think we're young?
That's nice.
We'll take a quick recap of Sunday's front pages before we crack on. The Mail on Sunday. Winter Fuel Minister's heating bill is paid by you. Sunday Telegraph says, I blew the whistle on Wallace, but nothing was done. Sunday Mirror, families' agony as number of missing people soars. The Observer says PM to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. The Sunday Express, MOD orders £37 million worth of kit from China. And Daily Star on the Sunday, cursed picture, he's at it again. Ooh. Nick, the Sunday Times, and videos online can teach you how to fake being sick. I saw one with 2 girls in a cup that made me actually throw up my lunch.
A lot of info there, Steve. Yeah, sickfluencers, and congratulations on becoming a gammon, by the way. I bet you never thought you'd make it after the BBC MASH report. But anyway, sickfluencers help followers claim benefits as $15,000 a week approved. So you have these sickfluencers, and they tell you how to game the benefit system and get the PIP payments, and I wrote down what that means, but I can't remember. But personal independence payment, and it tells you how to game the system, and it's completely appalling. And it's, of course, inevitable. We become this receptacle for the world. We're like, hey, have endless benefits, and we've got an open border. So those two things together are absolutely disastrous for the country. And I do feel bad for people who have genuine mental health problems. But the problem is now you can just show up and say you're suicidal, and either you are suicidal and it's a serious problem, or you're gaming the system. And there's no way for the person to know, so they have to sort of let you through. And this is the impossible problem is to allow mental health as a category into the benefit system. It almost can never work. Really serious things like schizophrenia, I think it could work, but anything else, it's so open to abuse. And what I would do, it's far too good, in inverted commas, to be on the sickness payments versus, for example, what used to be called job seekers allowance, which I guess is now universal credit. Those are always horrible. It's always a pittance, and they constantly are badgering you to apply to a call centre. Whereas you get on the sickness ones, you can kind of be left alone and just disappear into the system and get your money. It should be incentivised to do the one that leads to work and heavily disincentivised to do the sickness one, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we sort of pay people to be sick. So obviously people are going to be sick. So what we need to start doing is if somebody is sick, they get charged money. They have to pay more tax. And that's how we defeat this scourge.
Right. But I mean, Nick's original point, which is kind of like a set theory thing, within the group of people who qualify for this, you've got your genuine and your non-genuine.
Yeah. You
just need a way to find which one's which clearly isn't going to be a little tick
poke
thing.
them a bit.
Well, they do like you read in the article, the quicker they can do the phone calls, the more money they make.
Yeah.
So, of course, as soon as they can go, yeah, you're definitely getting it, on to the next one. That's what's wrong. That's why this system failed.
It's just full of perverse incentives, and that's another one. Yeah.
It sort of needs to be done by the GP, I think. If your GP... I trust a GP more than I trust some, incentivised call centre worker who's processing claims. It's like the asylum system. So apparently it takes twice as long to deny somebody's asylum claim. So there's no incentive to do it because you can process more and make more money if you just say, yep, you can all come in.
There you go, we solved it, and yet we're 3 young gammons. Leo, the Mail on Sunday, Radio 4 soap opera didn't cover the inheritance tax issue fully, but Eldorado didn't do an episode on free movement in Europe, so they've got form.
So farmers blast the BBC over the Archers after the everyday story of country folks. It's all... The Archers is just about farmers. It's all set in the countryside. They covered the inheritance tax row in just 30 seconds. So Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer faced fury from farmers after they announced reforms to inheritance tax in last month's budget that are going to really impact family farms. It means you can't pass on your farm. You know, farms make such a marginal amount on the land that if they have to pay a 20% inheritance tax, it's going to mean they have to sell off land or just get rid of the farm completely, which obviously is what Labour want. They want it to sell it to China or to Bill Gates or to Larry Fink and fill it with solar farms. The Archers, so you'd think the Archers would go in depth on this, and instead, this is the dialogue from the show. This is how they covered it. So farmer David Archer, who's one of the show's main characters, said there's a lot of anger about this new inheritance tax on farms. His friend Leonard Berry then replied, but we need those taxes to pay for things like the NHS. I mean, this is the most clunky state propaganda you could possibly get. Like, Kim Jong-un would blush at this level of clunkiness. This just shows that, a lot of mainstream TV is just social engineering now.
That's what I was going to say. It's like a public service broadcast. But think of all the good stuff Stalin has achieved. It is that level. It's just interrupt the story. We now interrupt the story to tell you about our great leader.
Yeah.
It's absolutely embarrassing.
That's an argument for the words that were chosen, but the argument that it's only 30 seconds, they're missing what happens. This is not like live coverage. This stuff was recorded ages ago. It's like when Michael Jackson died, and they had to have one scene inserted into an episode of EastEnders. So out of nowhere, they suddenly go, Michael Jackson's dead, eh? And they crack on. So there'll probably be an episode that covers this longer, but you got all the script writing, script approval,
but the angle is still very weirdly pro-government.
The 30-second thing.
You're right, and The Archers is a short show, but you can just compare it, I think, with Clarkson's Farm, which is the opposite, you know, totally based. It's a reality show. It's Clarkson being populist, saying outrageous, un-PC things, versus the state propaganda that The Archers apparently become.
And it just shows that, you know, there's the sort of moral case for the licence fee is completely bunk now. I mean, if you're a farmer and you're paying the licence fee, you're literally paying for propaganda that's hating you.
And The Archers has been a great show, by the way, and my parents used to do it every day growing up. It was a big part of my childhood. So I do want to shout out the old Archers. It was kind of like The Simpsons. It sounds like it may have gone awry.
Never liked it. The speed with which I can get to the dial as soon as I hear... Dun, 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 gone. That's record time. Nick, the Mail on Sunday, there are meetings where you have to talk about emotions. Can you just scream, I'm bored with this? Because that's what they'll be feeling.
That would be your take, Steve, as a science-based male.
Feelings? Against them.
Yeah, you're against them, famously. But, yeah, it's Whitehall civil servants hold lengthy emotional check-ins at start of meetings as staff are asked to bring their whole selves to work. So this comes from Pamela Dow, who's a former civil servant who's kind of looked into this stuff and says, this is mental. I'm paraphrasing. And she's... because it's all this... there was a blog post... 2016 from Claire Moriarty talking about people bringing their whole selves to work and blah-de-blah, being empowered and all this kind of thing. Whereas Pamela Dow is basically saying, actually, when you bring vulnerability to work, you expose yourself to be attacked by people willing to exploit it for their own agenda. And sadly, that's the problem. We have Machiavellian, toxic people we have to work with, and that is always going to be the problem. That you come in and say, oh, these are my weaknesses. They're just writing them down in their little diary or exploit those later. So, yeah, you can't really be yourself in the work. But, I mean, I am too much. And I just get wounded for it, Steve.
I saw Leo writing down, literally he's got a page in a little book called, like, Things to Attack Nick For.
I know, I know, but he shows me them openly.
Yeah. But at least you're organised. I like it. It's good. Yeah, I mean, there's a place for all your feelings. That would be not at work.
Yeah, absolutely. Work is where you should do a job. Unfortunately, this is the public sector, so they don't have to worry about doing any work because the public sector is essentially just a sort of Keynesian stimulus to take, you know, mid-wit university graduates and just get them off the streets and get them into a sort of middle-class existence. But, yeah, bringing your authentic self to work. It doesn't work if you're a Conservative supporter or a Reform supporter. We've had cases recently with the Department of Work and Pensions and with other public sector organisations where somebody brings their authentic self to work and says they support Reform and gets in trouble or gets dragged into a meeting or gets fired.
Yeah, that's a great point. They don't want our whole selves. Yeah. Like, they're talking about a sort of a touchy-feely woke person. They're not talking about Leo going off on Syria for half an hour at the morning meeting and which tanks they're using.
Even we don't want that.
Right,
somehow we still end up with it. Yeah, amazing. Right, on to the next one. Nick, the Sunday Telegraph, outrage after female athletes were called non-transgender women, when we all know they should simply be called cis-cervix wielders.
Which you've been in trouble for before, Steve, which I wanted to get onto. But it's Navratilova condemns New York Times for calling female athletes non-transgender women. That's how we're delegating normal women now, I guess. I mean, it's so funny because obviously it assumes that trans is the norm. That's the big problem with it. And that's the problem with the cis term as well. But it's also, I suppose, a way of describing these women who are women, but they just have high testosterone, like that boxer that beat up all the women at the Olympics, right?
Oh, apparently that might not be as cut and dried as... apparently there's a leaked medical report. I don't know if it's been verified or validated, but it said that, you know, they might not be such a women.
OK, let's go ahead and talk about non-verified, non-validated stuff. No, but how do you describe a woman who has high testosterone but is not trans? Well, I guess they've come up with non-transgender woman, but it's absurd. But you got in trouble for saying that cis...
I got in trouble for using it as a prefix when simply trying to say not trans.
But you see the problem with it. It suddenly normalises the minority thing.
It depends what goes before it in the sentence. The actual sentence here, they talk about the level of testosterone, which can be higher for non-trans... Because they're already talking about trans people, and they just specify, so they just say it's for clarity. Because you did it verbally, women. That's what you mean to say. But you can't really do that when you write in a newspaper. You can't be like, women.
Real women.
Out. You can't do it.
Say real women.
You could do. But they chose not to. So that's effectively what they did. I think this is just a clarification to make sure you know which group you're trying to talk about.
No, I think this is the patriarchy coming back. Women are now yet again just reduced to a subset of males. So this is
finally
we're right back to the biblical idea of women just being a spare rib from a man that's then given life or whatever happened in the Bible. It's amazing to see us go all the way. We had this Enlightenment and we had women's rights, and now it's gone full circle and women are back in that box.
Cis ribber, then, is what I guess they should be. So you're saying that's what it should be called? They're ribbed, for our pleasure. Still to come, you can't even sexually harass someone at a Christmas party these days. Ofsted must try harder, and a rare Mars sighting that could get you some money. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
A pensioner has been sacked as one of Santa's helpers for sending anti-Labour social media posts. So it looks like Santa is going to have even more work to do this Christmas. And joining me now is the former Santa helper, Paul Cleary. Paul, marvellous. You've still got your old hat on there and your beard. Wonderful to see. But Paul, this story, pardon the pun, is absolutely crackers. Tell us what happened to you.
It's unbelievable, to tell you the truth. I've been accused of sending racist and or derogatory remarks on my Facebook page about the Labour government. I received a letter from the trust where I volunteered as Santa. The posts in question about Labour cancelling Christmas. I've upset the board, members and volunteers, and are deemed inappropriate. As you're aware, a lot of time and effort is put into organising the WAF Christmas Festival, which is done by a small group of dedicated volunteers.
They even banned you from making donations to the Montgomery Hall Food Bank, a local food bank. They said they didn't even want your food.
That's right. That's right. And then in the next breath, they're asking for Christmas donations.
Without going into any details, I understand that the post was about comparing Keir Starmer to an elf. Is that right? So was it an elf and safety issue?
It was an elf with Keir Starmer's face on it in front of number 10, but the 10 was the I and O in idiot.
Right. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that Santa would normally say, but it's a free country, and for Santa got the sack.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, Leo, to the Sunday Times, and you have to be careful not to be too sexual at a work's Christmas do, especially if it's the MasterChef one.
Yeah, so office Christmas parties, harassment law threatens boozy bashes. So there's this updated legislation that came into effect at the end of October to impose a duty on employers to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual pestering of their workers. I don't know how that's going to work at Spearmint Rhino, but employers that are found to have failed to do so could face claims for unlimited compensation at tribunals. So obviously a lot of companies are going to be risk averse and just not have Christmas parties. What this could do is the Christmas parties will move to unofficial Christmas parties. parties. I remember when I worked at one of the councils I worked at, they banned Secret Santa in case it offended somebody who was, you know, a godless heathen or whatever. So instead of just doing it at work, we just did it down the pub, and everybody got much more offensive presents because it wasn't supervised by work. This is what's going to happen here. They're going to have unofficial parties with no oversight, so they're going to be less safe. So yet again, legislation that's supposed to make people safer is making people less safe.
Yeah.
I just looked at this sentence that businesses should be particularly mindful of the new rules. I just like, welcome to hell. Like Christmas parties, not that I've really been to them because I haven't had normal jobs, but even Christmas parties just grimly dominated by safetyism, legalism, lawfare. It's just so grim and pointless. And none of it works. I'm all for the idea. You have to go to work. It's not your fault. You need to make money. So it should be a non-horrible place, ideally. But somehow, this stuff never works, because if people want to be horrible at work, they will find a way. It's like life finds a way. None of this stuff's ever stopped anyone, because that's why we constantly cover tribunals. You know, people are constantly suing people for how they've been treated at work. It doesn't work. It just creates a sort of endless proliferation of lawsuits, which creates even more misery in the world.
Yeah, and if you are sexually harassed at work or a Christmas party, surely the fault of that is the sexual harasser, not the owner of the business.
Right. It makes it impossible for business as well.
But there is vicarious liability in law where, you know, if you're providing the sort of scenario and the circumstances that lead something like that to happen, then you are liable.
But imagine being an employer, though. Now, you can only employ basically incels. You can only employ people they have no interaction, nothing sexual, nothing harassment. Who do you employ? Just like, as soon as robots come in that are decent, they'll just employ robots.
Yeah. And then robots will be pinching people's bottoms. And that'll be really sore because they won't...
metal.
Yeah.
Nick, the Sunday Telegraph, Ofsted is teaching how to cover your own back.
Yes, Ofsted putting children's safety at risk to protect teachers' mental health is the headline, not my comment, but it's an inevitable problem after Ruth Perry tragically took her own life following the pressure of that Ofsted report that, you know, said they were inadequate. And I totally sympathise. Now, the problem is, according to this piece, that some Ofsted inspectors feel the emphasis has shifted too far in the direction of teacher well-being versus the interests of children, i.e. having a good school. And that's inevitable, because once a teacher killed themselves, it was inevitably going to happen. So it's how to find the right balance. And my parents had a small restaurant, so they were totally dependent on the Good Food Guide. When that came out, it would just make or break your entire life. I was talking to my mum about the pressure of that. It's like, will we be able to eat this year? This rubbish book tells... Not rubbish book, it's a good book. But, you know, this book tells us, and that was how it was in those days. So imagine you're a teacher... This Ofsted report, one word, inadequate, and you feels like your life's over. In this case, it tragically was. At the same time, if you don't have standards for schools, we're lost, so...
It does seem a bit silly to have just like a one-word rating for a school, when surely it's a bit more complicated than that.
And there are only 4 levels, and yet even a hygiene rating in a kebab shop's got 5 different levels.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be more in-depth than a school report, should it? We've got to get onto this one, Leo. The Daily Star Sunday. A man finds a smooth Mars bar. But how did this happen? Your partner licked it.
So a bloke finds a rare, smooth Mars bar as mystery surrounds just how it happened. So Mr. Seeger, Harry Seeger, 34, from Aylesbury, bought the bar at the service station while en route to a classic car show in Birmingham. And he wrote to Mars. He opened it. It was smooth. It hadn't been licked by anybody, unless it was licked at the factory. He wrote to Mars seeking an explanation for the unusual appearance, but instead was given £2 in compensation. And it says here he's going to spend his £2 voucher on 2 free Mars bars, but they're not free if they cost money.
Yeah, you see it there. There you go. It's obviously a Mars bar there.
Yeah, it looks strangely sexual, but a spokesperson for Mars remained tight-lipped about the rippleless Mars bar, so maybe that's how it happened.
Mars are the ultimate winners here. They've got the publicity, and he's starting to buy 2 more Mars bars. Yeah. Why is he just spending it on more Mars bars?
What if they're smooth?
Great point.
There is no way. If ever it happened to me, I'd end up eating it. You hear about the Kit Kat that's if it's solid all the way through, you get a box. I'd have it. Right, the show's nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Mail on Sunday winter fuel minister's heating bill is paid by you. The Sunday Telegraph, I blew the whistle on Wallace, but nothing was done. The Sunday Mirror, family's agony as number of missing people soars. The Observer goes with PM to pledge ambitious new targets in Labour reset. Sunday Express, MOD orders £37 million of kit from China. And the Daily Star Sunday, cursed picture is at it a day. That's all we've got time for tonight. Thanks to my guests, Leo and Nick. Cressida Wetton will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Paul Cox and Ben Adams. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay exactly where you are. Breakfast is on the way next. Until the next one, have a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Over the next few days, we'll see some rain at times, often quite blustery, and things will turn colder.